Okay, so this part is only for people who are doing the programming homework option. I feel like I ought to show some fancier stuff at the end here. I'm going to encourage you to change your code so the beginning of the scene, the play game events, first event there goes back to layout 1. Make sure that's working. And and for other people who are doing art and audio and maybe something else, that's going to be written up in a Word doc. But those people who, if you think at all you'd like to learn more code, I encourage you to stick with this because the Lab 3 and Lab 4 are longer and a little bit harder, but they just assume that you're getting a little bit more familiarity here. And so there's definitely more work involved, and hopefully um, it won't get any harder than Lab 4. So um, I think some of you might be able to do this. I'm going to challenge you to put in a lives mechanism. You can pause the video, and I'm just going to go start doing it. And then if you have a solution, you can compare yours with mine. So um, go ahead and pause it if you're going to pause it. Otherwise, you can follow what I'm going to do. So I need a scene variable if I'm going to do lives, and that's specifically for where we have the score as well. And so it's not all that different. And we'll start it out at a different number rather than 0 here. Let's say there's, I don't know if you would lives or balls. Um, Either way, you could count either of them. So let's see. Apply that, and when lives goes down to 0, you've lost the game. So, okay. Right now, losing the game is this. Y position ball. You don't really want to do this anymore unless the situation is where you don't have any more lives. So the simple way to do it was add the condition where you check for lives equals 0. Okay, other conditions, variables, value of a scene variable, lives, that is equal to 0. Could do that. Maybe a more clever way would be to use sub-events, but this is a good start. So if you figured out how to create a variable, lives, and set it to something like 3, or some like balls or ball count, that's great. So here's some, I'm going to copy and paste this. Here's another way to think about this. If the ball is um, at this position, but lives is greater than 0, this is where you have to do a bunch of things, and maybe you haven't seen this before. So let's get to changing this variable, which starts out at 3. It'll go 3 to 2, 2 to 1, 1 to 0, and then when it's 0, it'll do this. So let's do that, and set the variable lives to 1 less than what it used to be, minus a 1. So hopefully that's pretty simple. Not a big formula there, just subtracting a literal value of 1. Now that I've done this, I actually think, hey, I might be at a place where lives is 0. If that's the case, I don't even need to check this ball position. I just go to the lose game place. Sure. So that's a simplification here. So this is going to change a little bit. I need to get that ball back to where it needs to be. And then I also need to stop it. So, well, let's first, you can take anything that's moving and that ball stop. There it is. And when the ball is stopped, actually what's going to go on when you hit the space bar is up here. It'll try to delete this object, but that object is not around, so it won't. The way this is, it won't hurt anything. It'll play that sound, and it will make sure that it's going up. Okay, so what I want to do next is move that ball to where it's in a good place. So there, besides that movement, which is sort of retro game physics, there is just the position of an object. So we'll change both an X and Y by doing this. That means we're taking the ball and setting it equal to some other object, paddle, and then the paddle inside of it has an X and a Y. Now those are called member variables, and the same thing is for the Y position. So that is equal. Paddle.x, paddle.y, and that's going to put it literally on top of the left corner of the player's paddle. So that's close to where it needs to be. It's certainly above 600, but it needs to go to the right a little bit. I'm going to guess 29, and it needs to go up a little bit. I'm not sure what I did, but 32 is going to be probably more than I need. I made a mistake here. This is flipped from Cartesian coordinates, and so paddle.y, to move it higher up, we need to do something like that. Okay, so I believe this is what we need. Launch the ball, move out of the way. Okay, that ball is up really high, so I could make it easily 10 pixels, 15 pixels less. There we go. I wonder if the scene variable is changed back to 3. Yep, everything works fine. When you start a scene, it recreates everything. Okay, so this is too extreme. Make that more, I don't know, 14. That's fine. Could make it even smaller, probably. So that's great. There's a couple of other things I wanted to do. Let me hop over to the lose game events. So with lose game, there's this game over message. I'm going to move it up a little bit. And in the beginning of this scene, I'm going to do something with this text display. And let's edit the object first to create this behavior. So even though this is text, you can still put behaviors with this. And I'm going to add a tween behavior. So tween is a smooth movement of an object. And so there's nothing to configure here. But over in events, let's say you add the action to text display, and we'll do a position tween just in the, let's say, Y direction. So, and you give this an identifier like tween1 is T1. So where we're going is where we are now, which is this variable, this object with a dot, and then the Y open paren, close paren. Okay, so relative to where it starts, I want it to move down the screen. I'm going to say somewhere around 260, and so this is where it's going to end up. If you just left it at that, it wouldn't be moving. So the tween has all of these things that are pre-calculated. I just like bounce. It's the simplest. I want it to take 3 seconds. This happens to be in milliseconds, so then you just multiply by 1,000. So you can play with the easing there, and if I go back to play game, lose, I want to then see this to make sure it all connects together. So play game, lose. Okay, so obviously this is just an introduction to tweening. You could do a whole lot more with that. And the last thing I want to cover is things about game feel. I'm going to add some animations, and sometimes this is worth doing, where it's just a simple way to make your programming have less of a headache. And if you knew in advance you were going to do something special, you could have put these animations, like animation 3 and 0, together. So what is the idea of having this identical image? It's going to look the same as that, but I won't be exiting the game when this is colliding with the ball. And I'm going to do something fancy with it, experimental. So let's add more copies of everything. So there's a total of 6 different animations. Yeah. Okay, so 4, 5, and 6, I guess. Or no, 0 to 3 is the ones that collide. 3, 4, and 5 are going to be the ones that will do this new kind of game feel thing. Okay, so rather than deleting bricks every time something like this happens, the brick is going to turn into some other version based on the animation. So I think this is animation 0 is going to go to 3. Change the animation. I think this one's 3. So this 0 is the same brick color as 3. And if this doesn't make sense, I understand. It will in a moment. This is 4, provided I've done it right. So this is 5. And now I have a very strange version of my game. Yeah, they're not going away, but they actually aren't really there. The ones that get hit are doing something else. Okay, so there's a thing we can do. We probably could move these off the screen and change the opacity. and make them rotate. Maybe we'll do one thing at a time. So let's choose this one, and we're going to take that brick, and down here there's some special effects. So where is the opacity? Change sprite opacity for visibility. Okay. I happen to know this is a number between 0 and 255. So I'm going to make this 254. And probably do this with all of them. And so what does that mean? It means it's going to be more and more transparent, and when opacity gets to 0, we'll get rid of it. Okay, so there's a lot of code there. I'm wondering if maybe I need a new comment. Drag this up here. New ball, launch, and lose game. Code. Alright, so actions which occur each step of the game. This is kind of a check that happens all the time. Not sure that really belongs there. How about new ball launch and win/lose game code? I'll put this up there. Alright, maybe that's a little bit better. So another brick thing that I was just working on is this thing about opacity. Sure, I could do it there. And then I check my brick if the visibility of it, now where do we find that opacity here? If it is greater than 0, right here, the action would be to change the brick opacity down by 1. And then we're going to add an action here. Well, I think we need to add an event right underneath, because we do need to delete this brick eventually. So if you change that one to equal 0, then you can't see it anymore. It's time to delete the brick. And you do need 0 bricks to win the game. So that's important. So let's just try that. Well, they're all fading out now. Okay. That's perfect. I need to do something where if the opacity of the brick is less than 255. Okay, so that experiment needs to be shifted a little bit. So it's 254 and below, you keep subtracting 1, and then you'll delete that brick. Okay, so we've got a bunch of things that they're colored and they're different points, and right now they have an opacity change to 254, this one and this one and this one. if it's 254, it's less than 255. It'll subtract yet another one, and it will keep doing that until it equals 0, and then it'll delete the brick. So that's kind of an interesting effect. It probably could be faster. I'll subtract 2. Okay, and then I'm just going to pick a color here. I'll just do this brick 2. These are worth the least amount of points, so I think they're kind of lightweight. And let's give them some new behavior here. Add the action where this brick is going to have a movement. So we know we collided with the ball. So what we could do is read into the ball's member variables and find out how it's moving. So add a force with an angle. Well, you find out what the ball was doing. So there's several force-related quantities: force angle, force length, force x, and force y. In my mind, in terms of physics, it's really about your current velocity, but we'll have to use what they do. So we'll follow whatever the ball was doing, and the speed will be also, we'll grab that from the ball. You don't actually have to, because I know it's 300. I think that this is what they mean by force length. And then maybe times 2. Something a little bit more dramatic. And see how that goes. So this is just one of the bricks doing something a little differently. Do save. I'm going to aim to see if I can get to the green bricks. Maybe I flipped it around. I guess the ball already switched directions, so my idea was the ball is going to bounce. So maybe I'll change the order and see if that would be really nice if it was a quick fix. So this, if I can drag it down, this shows that the order of operations matters. So the bouncing ball happens last. And my 2 times 2 might be a little fast. You can certainly do something between 1 and 2. All right. So there is another idea I had, spinning around a brick. So maybe we'll just do this with brick 1. So what do I mean here? We'll do a sub-event since that's a little bit more advanced. Create a new event and then drag it up right here. and move it to the right. So what it means is I get to make a further test. So some of the bricks are going to be like this brick. I can just copy that with the animation set to 1 originally. But then I'm really checking for 4. So if the opacity of a particular brick is less than that, and remember the bricks that started out at 1, then they're going to go to 4. Then I want to make it rotate. So this is an angle of the artwork. Well, let's just give it an angle where we add to it. And I don't know, maybe something like 10. And just as an experiment, I'm going to try something much smaller here, 1.25. So yeah, again, that's up to you what you want. And you could have different sounds for all 3 of these. So I think I need to get to the, there it is, yellows. So that works. I didn't really have an idea for red. I'm kind of breaking my idea when I do this, but just to prove a point, you could put a function here. Let's say random. Well, let's double click on this. Now it's going to give me my random numbers. Random number range. And this is going to go between 1 and 2. So it'll be a 1 or a 2. And so we won't be using the number 4 here. Or brick equals 3. I've replaced that with this one. So this brick is going to turn into a brick 1 or brick 2. Now I'm going to have to get it up to where those red ones are. I need more lives. If you remember the play game scene variable lives, you can certainly do something more useful for testing. Every step of the testing process, you just shift that as you need to some better value. That doesn't work too well, really, because it's changing too much. Yeah, it does work though. That's the main thing. Let's do that. I forgot, if we really want it to be another type of brick, we can't make it opaque. There's something else really important I just remembered. The order in which these 3 different types of bricks get processed matters. I have a problem here because if brick 0 gets turned into a brick 1 or 2, the collision's still going on, and it will be brick 1 or brick 2, and all of this code will happen. So that's just like a recipe where you're making food. The order in which that you do things really does matter. Okay, so this may not be perfect, and probably the best way we'll cover in maybe the fourth lab is to use some kind of timer to make sure this brick has a brief delay so it doesn't disappear instantly, even if it gets hit twice really quickly. Um, so this probably will be good enough for some of the red bricks to stay but have a new color. And actually, I had another thought, just encouraging you all to think in a test mode. I'm going to, for test purposes, drag this way up high here. And that will just be for the first ball. And that's because I want to test this where the ball is up high. And I can hit space. And I can see, yeah, those are working pretty good. You know, I think if it hits between two bricks sideways, the red one might quickly just disappear. It'll turn to yellow or green and this then disappear. But yeah, maybe there's something with the collision code that I don't know. In order that it really hangs out, you might have to put in a delay if you get more. Like if you wanted to make a project that was more aligned with the fancier, more modern versions of this game, and you could put in a character and some kind of story and change these to look like something more distinctive. All of that is possible later on. Okay, so I think that's the main ideas. You could go further with using tweening with the text. You can certainly think about different options for anything that you know about already from the previous lab. You could, even if it's not really for the full game, if it's something like a test feature where here if you click on a brick it does something, or you can get rid of bricks while the game is running. Things that you would only have as a developer. That could be another thing to just get familiar with.